So, Lone Rider here, and I'm out here in the woods in Watchung Reservation. Excuse that noise. An airplane peaked this moment to fly overhead fairly low. I don't know why. But I'm out here in the woods at Watchung Reservation here in Union County, New Jersey. And the reason I'm out here is because I wanted to talk about mountain biking access and Watchung. And in particular, I wanted to talk about a lesson from Watchung. I learned a lot during the nearly 3 years I was involved in the attempts to get bike access here at the park, mountain bike access. And I think a lot of other people did too. And one of the things I learned was get specifics, or I should say, get it in writing. And at the very first meeting we had with the county, there were a handful of mountain bikers. There were the county people, and then there was a representative of the contractor they had hired, Miss Stanley from CME Associates. This was at the February 2015 Galloping Hills Golf Course meeting. And essentially what happened at this meeting was the government talked the entire time about allowing mountain bike access and how to implement that. They never suggested that there was a law or ordinance banning it. They never said, hey, hold the phone, we're getting ahead of ourselves, we have to change legislation. They never said that there was going to be a problem with it, that there would be anything. It was just, this is what we're going to do, let's move forward. I thought, oh, cool. One of the government people even admitted, from the Union County government, now he didn't go out and shout it from the rooftops, but in this meeting with us, he did say, what happened years ago was wrong. Of course, then he immediately flipped it around and said, but let's not talk about that going forward. So it's like, well, if you're really acknowledging that it was a mistake, I mean, don't we kind of have to talk about it? Because that's the policy we're changing here. But be that as it may, there were some questions about what went on at that meeting. But essentially what happened is we walked out of there with a big promise to open the park to mountain bike from the government, from Ms. Stanley. And we were asked, to just wait patiently and they'll contact us when everything's ready to go. And since the whole thing was that we were going to be involved in the process going forward with suggestions and advice and so forth. One of the people at the meeting was a member of the JORBA, the Jersey Off-Road Bicycling Association, etc. So I said, well, how will we know? Because we need to know not only when it's going to happen, but if there's going to be like a vote or something. But we need to know beforehand so that we can prepare to help advocate for it and stuff like that. And they said, don't worry, we'll let you know in a few months. Well, something like 4 months passed, and we haven't even heard from anybody. This is weird. And it turns out the trail plan that was supposed to be voted on that July, which wasn't voted on for like almost 2 years later, just disappeared, and nobody ever talked about it for like nearly 2 more years. That's weird. I don't know about you. When somebody tells me they'll get back to you in a few weeks, and then you just never hear from them again, or a few months rather. When they say they're going to get back to you in a few months, and then they just disappear into the woodwork, and you literally don't hear from them again for 2 years. I thought that was strange. So I sent a letter to the or an email, I should say, to the lady from the contractor, Miss Stanley, saying, you said you'd get back to us in a few months. It's been a few months and I haven't heard anything, and I just wanted to know what's going on so we can help in the effort. And no response from that. I waited like an additional 2 weeks after that email. No response, and no automated, I'm away from your desk, whatever. So then I emailed somebody named Sanchez, who I think was it Sanchez? I'm trying to remember. Somebody who worked for the government. I think his name might have been Sanchez. He was at that meeting. I have all the stuff written down at home, but I'm not carrying it with me, obviously. He didn't respond to me either. So then I emailed the Sebastian Delia, the county spokesman. And it was kind of prompted by an email he had sent me, saying that going forward I would be working with the Parks Department and not so much him. And then he said, just contact his office if you have a problem with the Parks Department. So I said, well, I tried to get back to this lady from the contractor who said we'd be hearing from them in a few months. And after like 4 months, I didn't hear anything. I tried emailing her. She never got back to me. I emailed this guy from the county department, for the county Parks Department, and he never got back to me. So now I'm emailing you. You had said if I had a problem working with anybody to let you know, and I'm just I don't know if there's a problem because I haven't been able to hear from anybody, and I just want to know what's going on so we can participate. And he got back to me with, well, as we told you at the beginning, this process is going to take a long time, and basically just be patient. Uh, First of all, it doesn't take a long time to decide to allow people to bike in your park. Right? When the issue was closing the park to bikes, they were able to do it in like one meeting, one secret meeting. So who knows? But here's the thing: my specific complaint to him, the information I conveyed to him, wasn't about it taking a long time. It was about the fact that after they waited longer than they said they were going to contact me, I tried contacting them and they never got back to me. That was the issue. The issue wasn't how long it's taking to get bike access. The issue is when I contacted them about not hearing anything in the time frame that they had said I'd be hearing from them, they just never got back to me. Ever. Nobody got back to me. So, I walked away from this meeting hopeful, this meeting at the golf course. And within a very short time, several months, I started to say to myself, was that just a stall tactic? Did they just meet with us so we'd go away? And I honestly think, I don't know if the stalling and then the government breaking its word that it had repeatedly given over the course of nearly 3 years and canceling the mountain bike access and basically reinvesting itself in its misguided ban. I don't know if that really came later or if that was part of the plan all along. You know, Once they heard that people were talking about this and making an issue of it, maybe they just said, well, we just want to keep things the way they are, so let's string these people along as long as possible. Have one meeting with them, maybe they'll go away because they'll think you're listening to them. And that's where it comes to the lesson from watching here, which is get specifics. Right? If somebody says you'll hear from me in a few months, no, first week of August, right? Second week of September, the Ides of March, whatever. But get specifics, and get a specific about what to do if you don't hear from them, whom you should contact, how to contact them, what their response is expected to be, etc. Um, you know, Somebody could say something vague like a few months, and then just say, well, it's just taking a little longer. If they tell you July 2nd, and you contact them, you haven't heard anything by July 24th, it gives you an idea, and it doesn't just give you an idea of when to expect to hear from them. It gives you an idea of whether or not they intend to actually let you hear from them. Somebody who intends to actually do what they're talking about will have no problem with giving you specifics. Again, if they can't give you an actual day, they'll say something like first week in June. Right? So make sure you get specifics, and when you start talking about a process where there's going to have to be multiple follow-up meetings and things like that, or a vote being held, make sure you get a schedule. Don't just have them say from one thing to the next, oh, we'll let you know next time, we'll let you know next time. Get a schedule. Get a list of dates and times. If the dates change, they can always email you a new one, right? But if they're not even going to provide one, then you have to ask yourself, are they serious? Do they really mean what they're saying, or are they just stringing my ass along? And that's unfortunately, excuse my French, what I think happened here in Watchung, at least part of it. Um, if we had, at the very beginning, at the very first meeting we had with the county, uh, if we had said, okay, yeah, you promised to end the mountain bike ban and allow us to ride here, that's great. Um, how's that going to work? Give me an outline. And if they hadn't been willing to provide anything, then we should have just said, you know what? Like Reagan did at that Iceland meeting with the Soviets, just walk out, all right? And go back to writing letters and other things, which is what got us to have a meeting with them in the first place. Putting pressure on these people got us to have a meeting with them. Making a stink got us to have a meeting with them. Once we had that meeting, it's like we didn't put pressure on them anymore. We just took them at their word, no matter how absurd, silly, or stupid it was that they said. And, you know, the lesson from watching here, to me, is get it in writing, get specifics. Don't take somebody at their word if they have a history of obfuscation and lying and deceit that goes back at least 20 years. All right? Get specifics, get it in writing. Lone Rider out.